time for What's Hot, where we talk about the stories that have everybody talking.
We're joined by local blogger Rochelle Fritsch, plus Jeff Wagner back with us. So it's been almost a year since that tragic first call came from Sandy Hook Elementary in Connecticut. Now, after a lengthy court battle, the 911 calls are being released. Many people don't want that out there. Others say the calls could have some value should the recordings have been released for anyone to hear.
Well, I argued against this at the time. The Associated Press, which was the one that sued to try to get them, their justification was, well, we want to see if the law enforcement response was appropriate. Now, I don't buy that at all. What I think they were hoping for is to find something that was extremely, I don't know, dramatic, that they could sensationalize. Now, the tapes are out, and there doesn't appear to be anything like that in them. There's nothing that suggests that the law enforcement approach was any problem with it. So I guess all's well that ends well. And I do notice media outlets are being very, very careful with what they release about this.
When I think of the Associated Press, I don't think tabloid sensationalism, so I don't know if that's the most direct line to their motivations there, Jeff. I mean, it's the AP. It's not like it's TMZ.
Yeah, well, we could disagree on that, because I don't have as much faith and trust in the AP as you probably do. But regardless, I mean, do you really think that they were trying to get access to this so they could tell if the law enforcement response was appropriate? I mean, did anybody suggest it wasn't?
No, I mean, that's the one confusing thing, because it was never an issue.
Right.
In how long it took police to get there.
Right.
Yeah, and you know what, and I totally agree with you, Jeff. I was thinking the exact same thing. Unless there's something that can actually be learned along those lines, or even if the shooter was still alive and on trial, and there was something that could have shed light on the motives, but none of that's even relevant. So I don't know. I don't know that it was necessary to have released him in the first place.
Yeah, I think you really have to have this balance. I mean, I appreciate the public has a right to know. Look, we all make our living under the umbrella of the First Amendment. At the same time, I think you also have to balance that with, how the victims' families could potentially feel. And it's a tough balancing act.
I think it's one of those things you have to walk away from, and hopefully the families will be sheltered from it. Even though there's nothing volatile, I think still just hearing it, brings it all back.
And it's why you're not very likely to hear any of this on TV or radio. I mean, it's on the internet. If you want to find it, you're going to be able to find it.
We're just talking about
we're not going to put it out on the
and there's nothing really newsworthy in there. I mean, there's no new revelation. We're not breaking any ground. It's not like they have revealed something other than you've got panicked people making a call to law enforcement.
And you know what? It's not just the families. I think it's the nation. We're all still healing from this. So to revisit it in this way, it isn't healthy. And as far as families go, you do want to remember your loved ones the way they lived, not in a moment that was so ugly and terrifying like this.
I think one positive thing we can take away from at least the tapes that we listened to in the newsroom this morning is how calm and cool and collected the teachers in that school were as they got their kids in a safe place, locked the classroom doors, and then sheltered during what must have been a terrible couple of minutes.
Right.
All right, coming up next.
First choice topic of the day.
Again, we have Rochelle Fritsch here in studio. Jeff Wagner's in his little box from the newsroom. A Texas middle school principal is now on paid administrative leave. Students say the principal told kids they could no longer speak Spanish while they are in class. Several students believe the principal's announcement has given some teachers and fellow classmates a hall pass to discriminate. Your thoughts?
I think it's absolutely ridiculous. If the kids were answering the teacher in Spanish when the teacher responded or gave them questions in English, then that's a different topic altogether. If the kids are speaking Spanish during the lessons, then that's not a language thing, that's a classroom management thing. But if the kids are just talking to each other during free time and in their first language, and obviously these kids are bilingual, then I don't understand what the problem is.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rochelle. This would be different to me. First of all, from what I understand, over half of the school, Spanish is the first language. If you had a concern or evidence that the kids were speaking in a language that the teachers didn't understand and they were being disrespectful or something like that, if there was a specific concern, I would say address the specific concern. But again, if kids are passing passing in the hallway and they want to speak to each other in Spanish, and you don't have any evidence at all suggesting that they're doing anything illicit to try to hide it. I just, why pick this fight? Doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I mean, if there's no disrespect on the student's part.
Right. Yeah, if you had evidence that some kid was in a classroom, for example, cursing out the teacher or something like that in Spanish, well, okay, then maybe you deal with it and you deal with that one child. But otherwise, who cares?
Exactly.
All right, the What's Hot discussion will continue online. You can find that page at tmj4.com/hot.
Coming up, Storm Team Forecaster